Hi, well, thank you very much. I'm obviously following on from those two very interesting presentations this morning, which I hope will be. I hope this will be equally interesting, but a bit more specific and different into a very particular area. But yeah, there's a little bit of crossover, I think. So yeah, so I'm the founder of Saturn Bioponics. We have been since 2010 developing this technology, which is a vertical. Try and avoid using the word vertical growing systems because it has the wrong connotations now, but it's a three-dimensional growing system for essentially compact, leafy and fruiting crops. So I want to really talk to you about its application in commercial crop production. It's essentially high-density hydroponics. There's a number of different systems around in that sort of under that heading, but ours is different. So we would consider it to be the first commercially viable three-dimensional system. The principle, obviously, of using three-dimensional space is not particularly new. It's what multi-story buildings do. So it's been something which, over quite a long period of time, actually, some of these systems there have been developed. There are a number of different ones that have come and gone in the past. A lot of people call them tower systems, but in and around there's sort of different ideas as to how it works. Some of them work very well, but they are just mega money. I mean, you could be looking at things where you've got £650 a square metre, £2,000 a square metre, some of those, and up to, in fact, one example there on the top right was something like £1,800 a square metre, through to turning skyscrapers into farms and various other things. The problem is essentially about appropriateness of technology in many of the cases, and or a lack of knowledge in how to deliver hydroponics on a three-dimensional level. And obviously, in principle, like I've already said, just the economic viability. Obviously, the LED thing, which has already been referenced this morning, which is the top right picture there, is a really interesting area. I think for me, I see it more as something where it's really about supplementing and augmenting the daylight that's already available, and for sure is something which I think the days of sodium lamps are very numbered, but it is a really interesting area, and we are working with some LED guys at looking at how that can work in terms of supplementing, particularly in countries like this in the winter, to try and push on growth and make the most of both daylight and the supplementary lighting through LEDs. So our focus, we're focused on really profitability through productivity, which is what all farmers try to be focused on. It's about increasing yields and reducing labour and resource input costs. Now, depending on where you are in the world, different ones of those have different priority. We essentially, on average, so it varies between crops, on average, our technology, we're looking at a 3 to 4 times yield increase per square metre or per hectare or whatever unit you want to take. And that is sometimes a bit more, sometimes a bit less, but it depends, obviously, certainly on climatic conditions too. It's taken us a long time to get to that because the know-how is very complex, and it's about understanding those different variables. So with the water, the irrigation strategy, the fertigation strategies, different kinds of substrates, we can totally change the performance of the system and different crops within that. Also looking at root zone temperature manipulation, and of course then, as I said before, integrating with how the light affects that in those different things. So we started in 2010. We realised that a three-dimensional growing was the only real way to totally transform yields and productivity, simply because just the limitations of space. It's been 6 years of researching, developing, trialling different crops, different strategies, We took it from, kind of tabletop, sort of kitchen table and conservatory, is how it all started out, with vine tomatoes, which was mad, through to, eventually commercial farms at the beginning of this year with some commercial customers. We've worked really closely with a number of people through that time, including some leading processors and sort of buyers in the UK, and some seed companies, which has become very, very important for us. I'll talk a bit more about that a bit later. We've worked with a number of universities, and we have had a lot of support from Innovate UK. That's sort of a little list. We've had a number of grants and awards through the time, including one more last night, actually. So that's been really, really key for us, just to support through what is obviously 6 years of research and development. Our offering is essentially about equipment and know-how. So we provide the hardware, which enables the application of the knowledge to a level that is very effective. So our hardware includes what we call the columns, which is the actual kind of planting sites, if you like, the irrigation system that goes with that, and then we also include a remote real-time monitoring control system. So that enables us to access any system anywhere in the world to be able to understand exactly what's going on with the hydroponic side of that, and map that in relation to the climatic conditions. So it's not a big data thing. It's really just about being able to support our customers everywhere with that know-how, which is what comes down to nutrient. It's something we're kind of strong in, do a lot of work on that, specifically customizing for the system in different growing environments, the strategy for the fertigation, the irrigation, and then looking also lots at different substrates, massive area of interest to us. We work with about 15 different substrates over the years, and whilst we spend a lot of time with rock wool now, we're also very interested in clay pebbles and then new substrates, including for propagation. It's another big area of interest for propagating plugs. So the system is a hydroponic drip and drain system. Like I said, it can use effectively any substrate. Anything that can go in a plant pot basically can go in the system. It needs to be inert, and we have, we've put gravel in there, we've put polystyrene in there, we've put phytocell, which is quite a high-tech sort of substrate. We put in clay pebbles, rock wool. They all have different pros and cons. We are definitely looking out for new substrates all the time. It's a recirculating system for maximum efficiency, and it has internal sterilization. So we are able to essentially eliminate root zone fungal disease through the internal sterilization in there. The planting is based around just pushing in plug plants and then pulling them out at harvest. So it's very quick and means the downtime on the system is absolutely minimal. And yes, we're able to provide completely remote support that goes with that. The system is also completely modular, so it's designed to go into any kind of space. Doesn't matter what the land is, doesn't matter what size the tunnel is, the width, the length, the glass house, polytunnel, shade house, it really doesn't matter. It's completely, obviously, soilless and land irrelevant. It can even cope with certain levels of undulation in the ground. It just requires power, obviously, to a pump, and water, and those two things are all it needs. So the benefits of the system, it's focused on profitability, as I said before, by looking at a combination of these different features, all of them together. So yield increases of 3 to 4 times, costs of production are reduced significantly with a pretty fast labour time. It's easy planting and harvesting. Not such a big deal here with water efficiency, but obviously in certain places that is a big expense. And again, nutrient efficiency, which adds a sort of sustainability angle to it because it's closed loop, so there's no pollution, no runoff. We have a faster growth rate, so you gain additional crop cycles in the year, which is standard with any good hydroponics, to be honest, but that is another feature that applies in ours. And we have eliminated root zone fungal disease. We can't eliminate what's in the air, but in the ground we can and have across all crops we grow. And then obviously you've got a clean crop, so minimal microbes, and if you get it right, it's 100% saleable. So that inevitably leads to a much more profitable system. So the crops we focus on are obviously compact crops where three-dimensional space makes sense. It doesn't make sense for vine tomatoes, which are already three-dimensional. So looking really mainly at lettuce and leafy salads, pak choi, which is what I'm talking quite a lot about today, and high-value brassica varieties, leafy vegetables essentially that have high value, strawberries, herbs. We have done some work with cut flowers, column stock plants actually, in particular, and we've done a lot with edible flowers as well. That's a super niche market, coming back to that comment before, but very interesting. And then other sort of dwarf plants such as dwarf peppers, dwarf chilies, where they're kind of small, they have short stems comparably. So strawberries, that's a strawberry farm image. We are doing 29 plants per square metre with strawberries, which, to give you an idea, is you're heading towards 5 times what some of the varieties will be grown at. Strawberries would traditionally be grown at somewhere between 6 and 10 plants per square metre. So we've delivered consistently high quality class 1 fruit, and as has our commercial customer for strawberries over the seasons. There is significant variation between varieties, rootstock size, and whether it's a June bearer or an ever bearer, and all the different technical strawberry things. But as an example, it's the only way of comparing is just relative. So one of our customers, Manor Farm Fruits, this year grew 29 plants per square metre of El Santa light waiting bed in the soil in coir bag system, so tabletop system. They were getting 6.25 plants per square metre, and that equated in the end to 6.5 kilos a square metre of fruit versus 1.6 kilos a square metre of fruit. In our own trials, we've actually pushed that up to about 8.8 kilos per square metre. So you've got fairly low cost of production, about 18p plus the plant cost itself. This is based on main crop varieties. That includes all your direct operating costs, so labour, nutrients, water, substrate, root zone fungal control, and yeah, it's got a lot of other pluses. So no root zone fungal disease, in particular Phytophthora. It's easy, picking's very easy. You get the idea from some of these other images. You just walk down the rows, the fruit hangs off, and yeah, strawberries are certainly a very strong plant for the system. So we're also able to extend the seasons with them. Lettuce is another big area for us. You're talking about a 3 to 4 times yield increase over soil-grown crop. It's reduced crop cycle time. The planting density is, again, in the region of sort of between 3 and 5 times. And the fact that we're able to push winter production a little bit as well through root zone manipulation, as well as just general hydroponic speed, you're looking at an extra 2 to 3 crops every year. So it delivers on something like lettuce a very quick payback time of 2 to 3.5 years, with the kind of fairly low production cost, again about 6p a plant plus the seedling. You get very high saleable crop, clean crop, which has attracted a lot of interest actually within the sector itself, particularly processors, and people selling into supermarkets, where microbes are now a major issue here, this year in particular. It's such a fast system, just push in and pull out, and we've actually, through nutrient work, been able to start to manipulate the colour, not as in like turn something green blue, but go from darker shades of a colour, from darker green to lighter green, darker red to lighter red. We've been able to manipulate that, the flavour, and we're also looking at shelf life through nutrient feed interaction. We even made shiny parsley this year, in fact. So yeah, to give you a bit of an idea on the lettuce, those are the kind of yields that we've been able to produce. So looking at the sort of multi-leaf lettuce there, 10 to 13 kilos across those. some of which are high value and some less so. So Basil, another one, that's been something that's been very, very strong for us. We were actually approached by some very big basil growers here to look at it. I always never really considered it as a particularly good option for the system previously, but it turned out to be phenomenal, and it's, again, very high value. So, and very difficult to grow in this country because it's tropical, so we don't really have the weather for that. You're looking at a yield potential of about 4 times really conventional growing. It's so quick, and it's so easy to harvest something like that. It's in a tower system. You're looking at probably an extra 4 crops a year and a low cost of production, meaning that can return a payback of less than a year potentially on the system. Obviously, all these things are subject to what you actually sell your crop for, but in general, within the kind of bigger players in the industry, that's the sort of payback it delivers. It's good for multi-cut. It's got, again, the ability to manipulate the flavour and the shelf life there, which is something like basil is a critical, and also push the winter production a bit. So that's an idea of basil in the system. So we've got a lot of other crops that work in the system. I'm not going to go through them all now, obviously, but yeah, parsley, another really strong one. A lot of herbs, and again, those kind of flower, some of the flower crops is an area of interest to us to look at potentially a bit more, again, if they have the right value. So Vale Fresco, who was obviously mentioned at the beginning of this, so we've been working with them. They put in a system for pak choy earlier this year. They're based in the Vale of Evesham. They're a large-scale salad supply business to pretty much, not all, but most of the main UK supermarkets. So Waitrose, Tesco, Aldi, Lidl, Asda, Marks and Spencer's, Morrisons, Sainsbury's, and they also supply into wholesale and ethnic markets. They grow a whole range of stuff, so lettuce, rocket, baby leaf. They grow courgettes, cherry tomatoes, and then they do a lot of pak choy and other oriental vegetables. It's about 11 hectares of pak choy undercover, in fact. They're 2 family businesses who expanded and became one of the leading salad growers in the UK. They got 2 farms in the Midlands and a 3rd farm in Sicily. They have been pretty dedicated to increasing the quality and productivity, and they are expert polytunnel growers, which is quite unusual in the UK, certainly in the salad sector, and they have some of the most advanced structures, I would say, certainly in this country. They've got, obviously, with their high-profile supply contracts, they decided to push on and get a bit more advanced, and kind of they're always obviously trying to look for that for the future. With the problems involving microbes and foreign bodies, disease in particular, and soil exhaustion, they decided that coming out of the soil is where they needed to be at. They engaged us in 2015, and over some time we worked out the right system for them, for their pak choy. They obviously are producing a lot of heads, about 200,000 a week, traditionally getting about 3 kilos per square metre. So we put a system in that looks like that when it's got young plants in, and then becomes like that. So that's pak choy. Pak choy is a great plant, to be honest. It's incredibly, it loves hydroponics, so it's really good. But it's a great plant in many respects. It acts like an indicator plant. It's got it shows all kinds of deficiencies if they're there very, very quickly. So it's a really nice plant to work with from a scientific point of view. So they put this system in. They've got 220 of these pak choy tunnels, and they put it into a tunnel to see, so they can then replicate that. They took it by going out of the soil into our system. They went from 20 to 75 plants a square metre. It goes in very quickly, and their workers were up and running with it in no time. They went from 3 kilos that I mentioned before to 9.2 kilos a square metre on their first crop, which they harvested in March this year. They've grown continuously since then with no downtime between the crops because of the internal sterilisation and that rapid harvesting and replanting. So in combination with the faster growth rate, they have, over the course of 12 months, they've gained an extra sort of 2.5 crop cycles of pak choi. We've carried on working with them very closely through that period, providing, hopefully, good support. Nick's here, so you can ask him. And we've really been able to increase kind of every single crop. They just push it a little bit more, just by, you know, improving certain controllable variables. And they ended up with 11.5 kilos a square metre per crop cycle. That's before they trim it and whatever, but that's where they got up to. So that's a gain of 8.5 kilos per square metre and obviously nearly a 4 times yield increase. They've also grown a number of other varieties, particularly in regards to lettuce, which they've achieved 13.25 kilos per square metre with, as opposed to just under 3 in the field. And again, no soil splash and fewer microbes, which is a big factor for them in the current marketplace. The quality of the crop and its clean and reliable nature has actually led to negotiating new contracts with some big retailers and processors, and it's also engaged for us. It's been great. Some of these processors who are keen to see a lot of other crops in the system, and they've had some national media coverage off the back of it too. They've actually had a profit increase overall of between 4 and 6 times, which per square metre, obviously, which is what we want. So they've been able to really push forward, and consequently, with the reduction in the cost of production and the fast payback time, they have actually now started considering rolling the system out so it's over this winter and the following years across that 11 hectares. Obviously 11 hectares is a fairly significant size and investment. So piece by piece, that's where they're looking at going with it. And so they should roll on essentially, really meaning they'll only need probably about 1/3 to half of that actual 11 hectare area to produce more crop than they already currently do, allowing space for lots of other things, including hopefully lettuce and maybe basil and parsley and various other crops that they're interested in. So the logic of the system is pretty simple. Really, it's a numbers thing. It's, you know, you're increasing the yields and you're saving in costs of production. It just simply means that the profitability increases. The payback is very quick, particularly around higher value varieties. We focus on what growers want to see. So there are lots of varieties that lots of plants, lots of varieties we've never worked with. These days we have to just do what potential customers want to see, because otherwise, you know, we can't do everything. But again, in different countries, it's a different thing. You know, we're talking with some guys in China where pak choi is extremely cheap and lettuce is extremely expensive, which is the complete reverse to here. So it's something which, you know, it's just completely different in all parts of the world, and so we have to kind of work around different things for different places. But in any case, the main point is that we still need to deliver that payback. So we aim for any crop we look at to be a 1 to 3 year payback. Even some pretty bulk field lettuce that we've looked at comes down at about 3.5 year payback with the trials that we've done. So, you know, it's all pretty acceptable within the horticultural crop production industry. So the future for us is really looking at expanding in the UK through this winter and next year. We have got a number of installations queued up in different crop areas, which is great for us, obviously, and then pushing those out into multiple hectare installations following their kind of first seasons. we're also developing the international market, which frankly is an awful lot bigger. And there's very significant interest, again, depending for different reasons. But there's a lot going on in certain parts of the European marketplace, some of whom have a better approach to investing in equipment of this nature, some of whom have worse. It really depends on where it is. Far East, again, massive marketplace, including in particular China, to be honest, where it's not where people would necessarily associate, but the type of land that there is there, it's very difficult to cultivate. There's so many factors, but it's a huge. I mean, it's bigger than the rest of the world put together. And the US, we've also got significant interest in, which is a really interesting market because there's not actually that much covered area compared to the size of the country. And but it seems to be where a lot of people are looking, especially with the kind of environmental changes that are going on there. So we work with Reichswan, we work with CNCs, we work with a number of very significant seed companies and very pioneering seed companies who've developed varieties for high density systems that can kind of grow over each other with no problem and various other things. So we work very closely with those guys looking at pushing new varieties in, and in turn they obviously start to kind of push this technology into their customers. Process is the same. We're working with the biggest guys in the UK right now who are kind of trying to push this into their growers, and some of the big retailers too. We want to keep advancing our know-how and support. It's critical. It's necessary for the grower and it's necessary for us, and it's very much part of our ongoing relationship with them. We need to deliver that globally and cost effectively. So it's something we just keep on working on. And we also want to look at new technologies and other areas of new know-how, kind of going forward, looking at other crop types, new nutrients and additives in hydroponic conditions. And certainly, as I said before, substrates is a really big area of opportunity and something we want to look at a lot more. And I've just to give everyone a bit more of an idea of the system, these are some walkthroughs which are done on sort of phones, so you have to excuse the amateur nature of it, but it's you kind of get the idea. So this is all lettuce, different varieties. That'll move into another crop. There's pak choi specifically, so this is actually taken down at Vel Fresco. So it's pretty consistent in terms of most features, colour, size. Again, there's not really anything in the way of disease. That's Basil. So again, you know, different varieties will perform very differently in anything. So one variety of basil will perform better than another, and the same applies with pak choi or lettuce or anything else, which is why the seed companies are so important and they do so much clever work, and that's strawberries. So it doesn't look like it on here, but the actual spacing for strawberries is much bigger than it is for other crops, because you need much more space to pick and the plants grow so much bigger. But again, yeah, for strawberries, very, very, very strong system. So yeah, hopefully that gives a bit of an idea. And yeah, and that's it. So thank you very much. I hope that was in some way comparably interesting to the guys from this morning. And yeah, I guess take some questions a bit later. Thank you.